It doesn't have to be hard running a business, but there are times when it can be challenging. Rob has got a powerful story, and it could have ended so much differently had it not been for a dog called Louie. Mental health is a huge thing that impacts a lot of people, so this episode might be what you need to hear, or it could be for somebody in your network, someone that you care about. Let's go straight in with the Louie story.
Yeah, it's a good place to start, isn't it? Before that day that he saved my life, me and Louis did everything together. I took him everywhere, went coffee, got him the puppuccinos and Starbucks and everything like that. And we did everything together, and he was my company. He was everything to me. And I was going through a difficult time. So I was a police officer for 5 years. Throughout that time, I felt very impacted by the job. I was under excessive chronic stress, negativity, and trauma. And I wasn't happy in my life. I hated my life. I couldn't see any way out of this life. I felt stuck in it. The only thing I was living for was Louis. Me and Louis had so much fun. That's the only thing I was living for. But one point and one day, I hit the ultimate rock bottom. And I actually saw that light at the end of the tunnel. But this light wasn't a light that many people would see at the end of the tunnel. The light that I saw, the light that was going to take away all the hurt, take away all the trauma and the unhappiness, was to take my own life. And even when I say this now, a good few years after, it still gets a lump in my throat saying it, because it upsets me that I was ever in that position that I didn't want to live anymore, because I know how great life can be. But when people suffer for the mental health and suffer of depression, unfortunately, they don't see that other side. And I was there, and I've been there. And on one day, I decided this would be it. This would be the day where the pain stops. This would be the day I take my life. And I woke up at about 3 p.m, having slept all day, as I was doing all the time, as this functioning depressive that I was. And I got up, and I remember going down the hallway to go downstairs to take my life. But there in front of me stood Louis on the hallway. And Louis looked up at me with those big brown eyes, and he gave me one big lick. And it was that lick, it was that second of that lick that showed me he needed me and I needed him. Who would give him that love and attention that I could if I wasn't here? And I thought to myself, it was almost like I snapped out of it. And I thought to myself, how could I leave you? Louis not only saved my life, but he gave me a reason to keep on going. And that is how Louis saved my life, with what? Just a simple lick.
That's an amazing story. It's a tough job, isn't it, being a police officer? And I think we only get a glimpse of what it's like from the outside looking in, but there's a lot of pressure. There's no way to switch off. Historically, there's been very little support for people with things like mental health. It didn't stop there, though. So you went to work for your shift that day, and then something else happened, didn't it?
Yeah, it was actually a couple of years after that where my last shift changed my life. So for a couple of years after this, I was living that life on repeat of a functioning depressive, sleeping on my days off. I still didn't get up of rock bottom, so to speak. Although I was living and had a reason to live, I was still that functioning depressive way. Louis just gave me the reason to keep going. And a couple of years went by until my last ever shift. Now, at that time, I didn't realize it was going to be my last ever shift. It's just transpired that it was. And it was just a normal early shift, 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. And I remember we were driving down the carriageway at 9 a.m. and we heard a car excessively speed to on the other lane, on the other side of the carriageway. And before we even had a chance to look around, we heard an almighty crash. We turned our van around and attended the scene. And what presented itself to us was a young male who had just taken his own life. And I remember like it was yesterday, and it'll be an image that will always stay with me. Looking down as the car had fallen down a ditch, the front screen had completely smashed, and there a 21-year-old male was staring right at me, gasping for air. And, it seemed like 10 minutes, but it was actually only a split second until he took his last breath in this world. And because it was down a ditch, me and my colleague, we just couldn't help. We couldn't get to him. We couldn't get down. It was impossible. And we just had to just watch. And it was horrible, horrible thing to witness. But in the police force, you witness these kind of things, and unfortunately you just keep going. And that shift wasn't done with me yet, because 5 hours later, another colleague of mine had a heart attack on shift and died. And for the second time on that day, I was overlooking somebody as the paramedics were giving him CPR. And I was unable to help, unable to save him, unable to do anything. My colleague had 29-year service, 1 year left until retirement. And it just changed everything for me, because I saw myself in that young male. I was there. I was 25 at that time when I wanted to take my own life. But I also saw myself in my colleague. I was in a job, not only did I not like it, but it was impacting my mental health, my well-being. Was I willing to do that for 29 years, 30 years for a retirement or a pension that may never come? And I realized there was many things I realized, but one of the main things was that I needed to put myself first and my well-being first. I needed to have a good relationship with stress. I needed to have a good relationship with negativity and trauma, and heal from all these things. Because up until that point, I hadn't. I just got on with it. It was the job to just get on with it and just go again, go again. And I've learned that how can we ever heal from trauma when we just go from one traumatic thing to the next, to the next, to the next? You can't. You just can't. And that was how I lived my life for 5 years. So it just changed everything about me and changed who I wanted to be and how I wanted to do it. And I made massive changes in my life right after that.
At the time you were based up in Scotland, and you moved abroad now and completely changed careers. So where have you gone from and to?
So firstly, from an unhappy person to a happy person, from somebody who was living an unaligned, unhappy life to understanding his core values, understanding who he wants to be in life and how he wants to live his life, what impact he wanted to do. And I always say about these 5 years in my police service is that they give me a purpose, because they give me a passion for workplace culture and to helping create healthier, happier teams, because I've been there in a culture which impacted your mental health. And workplaces that have a poor culture, I can safely say, because of my own experience, just how much that impacts not only you, but productivity and everything like that. So it burned the fire inside of this new passion. But also, I always knew that I wanted to help people. And I loved helping people in the police. But I wanted to do a step further, and motivational speaking was this next thing, because I always loved public speaking, always loved it at university. So I thought, why don't I just put two and two together? But it sounds simple, but it took me a few years to actually recover from all these things that I'd witnessed. And, if you had asked me for this podcast a year and a half ago, I couldn't have told these stories without crying. I couldn't have done it. I would have said no. So it's been actually a few years after the police for me to actually get the therapy, understand all these things that happened, and then take it from there and be like, right now, how can I use these to help other people and to help, businesses in creating happier, healthier workplaces? So I've taken these learnings from the 5 years and I've now put it into practice, into the lessons that I share in my motivational talks.
So the name of this podcast is the Buffalo Sessions, and I talk to people about being more Buffalo. And that's a time where you've faced a challenge and you've just got to push through it. And I think that definitely is the time that you had to be more Buffalo. So not just at the point that you thought you were going to end it, but then having two people lose their lives in the same day. It was the wake-up call that you needed. It was almost like a glimpse of where you're at today. Where could I be in 25 years' time? I don't want to see my life live out that way.
Exactly.
And I think whether you're employed or whether you run your own business, we all have tough times in life. And it's having some strategies to help us with that. And that's what you do now. You help businesses, but you don't help businesses. You help people deal with some of the challenges that they've got in life.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. I help people be able to thrive in their lives, whether that's professionally or personally, because I always talk about this idea of work-life balance, and it always gets to me, this idea of work-life balance, because for me, it doesn't exist, because It's all just life. It's all life balance. So it's about creating how we can handle stress in our lives, not just in our work life or personal lives. And for me, whenever I get asked, what's the one thing you tell people to be able to help build resilience or to be able to help manage their stress? What's the one thing? And the one thing that I can hand on heart say works is such a simple thing.
I just wanted to quickly interrupt the show to tell you about our upcoming conference, Circle Networks Live. If you're interested in growing your business, being around great people, and learning from some of the best who are just a few steps ahead of where you are, then I've got a conference for you. Great people, great speakers, all for one flat price. Everything's included. The ticket includes lunch, tea, coffee, refreshments, and everything that you need to grow and scale your business. Visit circlenetworks.co.uk/conferences to find out more.
And for me, whenever I get asked, what's the one thing you tell people to be able to help build resilience or to be able to help manage their stress? What's the one thing? And the one thing that I can hand on heart say works is such a simple thing. And it is about doing something for yourself every single day. Doing something for your happiness, not somebody else's, not your family's happiness, for your happiness. And at the end of each day, you need to check in with yourself. So at the end of each day, write down in a piece of paper or just say to yourself, what have I done for myself today? And it could be anything. It could be a 5-minute going for a walk, listening to music for 10 minutes. It could be half an hour meeting a friend. It could be 1 hour going to the gym, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going on holiday or I'm doing a spa day today. We cannot wait for the weekends. We cannot wait for annual leave to do something for ourselves. Every day is a chance to do something for yourself, and it makes a difference. And I've been here throughout all these experiences to say, I know it makes a difference because I do it now. And the stress isn't going to go away in your life. Of course, stress is part of life, but I can handle stress better by always understanding, well, what did I do for myself today?
The thing that I found is we overcomplicate things in life.
Well, 100%, 100%.
We overcomplicate stuff and we procrastinate. We put things off. So we wait so we're recording this in August. Most people will have perhaps had their summer holiday. Now they'll be looking forward to a holiday that's a year away. And it's almost like a delayed happiness. Well, I've just got to get on with things and soldier on until August next year when I get to go on holiday.
Exactly.
And then they do it, and it's 2 weeks of escapism, and then they're back to their life that they don't like. Life is too short. We should just, and what you're saying is you've got to live for the moment and make sure that you make time to have something that you enjoy each day.
100%. And people might think, well, it's easy for him to say I've got dependents, I've got children, things like that. But this is why I always say, I never put a time limit on what you do for yourself each day. Some days, guess what? You're going to be able to commit a little bit more to yourself than other days, and that's fine. But being able to do something for your happiness that you love, listening to music or things like that, it can be so simple, but it's so impactful and so effective. So it's a simple thing, but I think we need to get back to the basics, especially with handling stress, building resilience. We definitely can overcomplicate it. So get back to the basics, and the best place to start is doing something for yourself every single day.
Yeah. Like you, I've got dogs, so I love to get outside each day with the dogs. It forces me to do that twice a day to get out. Yeah. But this isn't an advert for people to go and get a dog. But when you've got a dog, you speak to other dog owners, and they're like-minded people, aren't they?
Definitely. And that's the thing, you get a social aspect when you get a dog, because all of a sudden you communicate with people that you would never communicate with, and you never know. I always say you never know what a conversation can lead to. Yeah. And I said, you have no idea. You could help someone in their life, what they're maybe going through a difficult time, or they could be helping you. And whether it's professionally or personally, you have no idea. And dogs definitely do bring that out in you, where you always chat to people. They always want to pet your dog or chat about something.
Even if they don't have a dog, they stop and if you've got a family dog, oh, your dog's lovely. Can I just say hello? That kind of stuff. Exactly. It's a conversation piece, isn't it? You've also changed countries. So I would class you now, and I don't know whether you do, as an international speaker, because you live in one country and speak in others.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, true. I think it helps that I'm an international speaker because I've actually traveled to the United States and all around Europe to give talks to, and the UK. So the international box is ticked for sure, which is nice. But yeah, living in Spain now in Valencia and travel back to the UK every month for talks, to businesses or for well-being festivals and things like that. It was something I wanted to do, and especially that last shift and everything like that, it's taught me new things about taking risks in life and to be comfortable with taking risks, because risk is a dirty word for many people, but risk is an important word and it has to be in everybody's lives. Calculated risks have to happen. We all have different relationship with risks, yes, but we need to be able to take them. And this was a risk. Of course it was a risk because I lose out in certain things like the networking and things like that in the UK. But when if I understood how important it was for my well-being, it seemed like a very aligned decision. And I'm not going to be here forever. Who knows where I'll be this time next year? But even my mom actually said this the other day. She's like, "Your things will work out the way they're meant to work out, and you're always in the right place when you're there, and the right time and the right place." So at the minute, I feel like this is the right place for me, and this is the right time. And then who knows what will happen next?
I love it. I encourage people that I think so many people procrastinate over doing what they really want to do. And like you say, they put other people first all the time. But we can work out the little things that make us happy and then start taking action. Particularly in the UK, we don't have a can-do culture. We both run our own businesses. It would be amazing if everybody cheered us on, but generally it's why are you leaving a good job? Why are you leaving the security? Why would you want to do that? What if it doesn't work out? Rather than working out how they can help us. But in the small business world of business owners, there's a hugely supportive community. And that's what I love about my world, my network, that we're all there cheering each other on and trying to work out how we can help each other.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what's great about what you do, where bringing like-minded people and good people together is so integral, especially in small business world, in business in general. But when you're starting up in these startups, it's so important to surround yourself with the right people, not just anybody, with the right people and good people. Because when you surround yourself with good people, I always say you're the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And when they're good people, good things tend to happen. And a lot less stress and worry comes with it too. So it's so important. And as I said, the small business community needs this kind of stuff.
And I think if you take obviously you're paid as a paid speaker, it's larger organizations that are going to book you to come and speak to their teams. Mental health is something that affects everybody, not just people that work for companies. Small business owners and entrepreneurs suffer it just as much, if not more, than employees. But there's very little around to support entrepreneurs with mental health.
Yeah.
What kind of things can people do to help themselves? So if you're listening to this, and I think there's 2 things here. One, you might know someone where you think, oh, they're struggling. You can't just say, cheer up, go for a walk. You're going to feel better. You'll get through this. It doesn't work that, does it?
No.
What could somebody do either to help themselves or to help someone they care about?
I think for me, to help yourself, let's say when we're looking at the likes of stress and mental health in general, I think that one thing that you can help yourself is actually, I always say, rant it out. Now, when we've got a problem, we've got a negative situation that we're going through or something that's eating us up inside, trust me when I say this, because I've been on the other side and not opened up. When you open up about these things, when you get them off your chest, whether it's to somebody you trust or even just write them down on paper, the problems don't ever seem as big and as scary as they do when you're just thinking about it yourself and it's only within yourself. So I always say to people, rant out something that's going wrong in your life or a problem that you just cannot seem to get out of your head. Get it out in the open, because it definitely does become less scary. And when you speak to other people, the beautiful thing of community is that people are there to help. If you've got the right people around you, they can't help if they don't know what's going on. So be open and be transparent. And I know that's difficult, but whenever you do surround yourself with good people, then the open and transparency, it does come a lot more naturally. And for other people, to help other people, I always just say, be open. We cannot, as organizations or as people, we cannot expect people to be like, you know what, I'm going to open up about mental health because this guy's told me, how are you? That doesn't work. We're in a nation where if I say, how are you? Someone says, I'm good, thanks, you. And then I say, yeah, I'm good, thanks. We don't actually think about the answer to how are you. We just don't. However, what we can do to change that, as I said, whether it's an individual or a leader in an organization, is whenever you get asked, how are you? Think about how you answer that question and be willing to be vulnerable, because vulnerability breeds vulnerability. And if I answered that, say, if you said to me, how are you, Rob? And I said, you know what, it's actually been a stressful week. Deadlines, and I've missed a deadline, and it's just been really, really tough. Lots of personal things going on too. Anyway, how are you? First of all, you'd help me out and start talking to me about it. But B, you would not say, oh, yeah, I'm good, thanks. You would then be like, you know what, I had a similar week maybe a couple of weeks ago, or whatever it may be. Vulnerability breeds vulnerability. And if we want people to open up, as if it's a friend, a colleague, someone we mentor or whatever, be willing to be vulnerable. It's not a weakness. So I think those two things are key.
That's huge. It's not rocket science, this, is it? And I say this quite often. I'll speak to my partner, Lou, and just by airing, she'll say to me, what's up? Or what are you thinking about? Because I am that person that goes quiet. I don't necessarily dwell on stuff, but I just go quiet. And she can pick up on that, and she'll ask me. Just by saying stuff out loud, I quite often answer what it is that I need to do myself.
Exactly.
Getting it out of our heads is huge. And I was on someone else's podcast yesterday, and he found that journaling works for him. So, and it's the same thing. It's getting it out of our heads. It might be you're a visual person, so writing it down enables you to see it, or saying it, you hear it differently when you say it out loud. But that part where, because we're so British, aren't we? How are you doing? Good, thanks. I'm not bad. I'm okay. And then the other person goes, not bad, and then we move on.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost pointless asking, isn't it?
It is. I think the how are yous become so meaningless in our society because it's almost like a way to introduce yourself, like hello, rather than you actually care about it.
Yeah.
That's
how are you? You don't even need to answer that, Rob, because I don't care. Anyway, here's why I wanted to speak to you.
Exactly. Exactly. That's it. Exactly. And so, yeah, we need to change that. And unfortunately, yeah, it is a cultural thing, but it starts, if we're in an organization, it starts from the top. How CEOs and how the leaders start implementing this into their own lives, because I think a lot of them think, I can't say to an employee that I've been stressed this week or anything like that. I'll show a wee bit of weakness and I need to be strong and whatever. But you can. It doesn't need to turn into a counseling session on the shop floor or in the canteen. But by just saying little things more than I'm good, thanks, or I'm fine, thanks, it makes the difference. And I've been there and I've seen it firsthand.
I see that in our network. And the coaching that I do with people, when we make ourselves vulnerable and ask somebody else for help, it gives them the opportunity to be the person that makes the difference as well. There's a give and take with these things.
Yeah.
And if we're always just everything, like on social media, I'm living my best life. Yeah. If we're always just like that, then people don't get to see the real us. And when we do make ourselves vulnerable with people and give somebody the opportunity to help us and ask for help, then the other person gets something from this as well, because they get to make a difference.
Yeah.
They get to listen. So it works both ways. It's reciprocal, this. What's happened then? So since you left the police, what's the highlights of your last few years then? So you've gone on this journey to become a public speaker. And I think there are people that might have been listening to this that go, my God, that's my dream thing. I want to move abroad. I want to be a motivational speaker. All I need to do is just talk about, I don't know, the tough times that I've had in my life, and then people are going to book me. Is it that easy?
Unfortunately not. Yeah, you have to be willing to talk about your tough times, yes, but you also, like every business, you have to make it applicable to why businesses want to listen to it. For me, although my story is part of everything that I do, what I say I do is I translate principles from the front line for business success. So I translate these principles into lessons that businesses can use. And that might be teamwork, leadership, resilience, stress management, or mental health, or whatever it may be. There's so many lessons I've learned throughout those 5 years of dealing in the most highly pressurized environments on the front line of policing that I can take these stories and actually translate them into lessons that businesses can use and create healthier, happier workplaces as a result. So although your story is so important, you also have to then think, well, how can I use it in a way that businesses want? Because a business won't want to hire you to be like, yeah, I suffered from my mental health once. They'll be like, and yes, it's inspirational that you're still here today, but they want more. And it's just like any business, they want a return on investment. And that's why I always think, well, what takeaways can they learn from your story? So you have to evolve, and you have to get your story to make it fit with what organizations want. But it's possible, it's possible for everybody, because one thing I always say when people say, oh, I want to do this is, well, understand your story and understand it well. I've had to go into the darkest depths of my story to be able to bring out all the lessons from it. And it's been difficult, especially this kind of trauma that I speak about. But without going into that depth, without understanding every single layer of the story, on a superficial level, it's, oh yeah, I had mental health problems and I had so many issues in my life, but I'm here still today to talk about them. Superficial level, isn't it? But it's not that. And people, you would get called out quick enough if you just spoke about that. So it's about understanding your story so much, and you have all these different layers. But for me, yeah, it's been tough. People maybe think, oh, lucky you're abroad, but it's been a tough journey. Look, being self-employed is tough anyway, as you'll know. It's tough, and especially starting up. I'm only doing this a year and 2 months, and it's a crowded market. Motivational speaking is a crowded market. So you have to think, well, what's my niche? And I always think, well, my story's unique. My police perspective is unique too. So then I use all these uniqueness to actually help. But it's been a rewarding journey. I was on the Chris Evans breakfast show a couple of months ago, which was a great honor to be there talking about my journey. And I was on GB News actually last week talking about mental health in police force. So and I did a TEDx talk last year too. So it's been amazing. And I would never have had these experiences if I didn't take that risk.
If someone wants to find out more about you, Rob, and what you do, where would they do?
So you can get me on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube with the username Rob Hosking Official, or you can check out my website, which is www.robhosking.co. Okay.
The links will be in the show notes for this as well. I think you've got a powerful story that will, and I'm sure there's lots of people that have heard it and you've made a difference for. I would encourage you, if you're listening to this, go and connect with Rob, find out more about what he does, and maybe put him in touch with an organization that he could make a difference to. That would be the ultimate gift in paying it forward. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you so much.
Right, that's a great story to have, and luckily one that turned out well. Mental health is a huge thing that impacts so many people. Share this episode, because you don't know who in your network, who that you're connected with, might need to hear this today. So please, share this episode, post about it on social media, and put people in touch with Rob to hear his message and find out how they could make a change in their lives. Thanks for listening.